with Mike and his what do you call him? His trusty sidekick Freddie, whatever that dog's name is, Freddie. All right, take it away, Mike.
Today we're going to talk about names, the importance of names when you're writing fiction. Where do you get your names? Well, a name can come from anywhere. And when I hear a particularly resonant name, I will write it down. The reason I can write it down is because I always carry a tablet and a pen with me at all times everywhere. Not only should I do this, you should do this. Everybody who wants to be creative, whether an artist or writer, should carry a pad and pen with them at all times. That's my perennial piece of advice. Where do the names come from? They come from everywhere and nowhere. But let's go through a few names here. Some are famous, some not so famous. And figure out where they came from and what their purpose is. Jerry Bingham is a great illustrator and painter. He did some Batman graphic novels and some other stuff, but he recently released his first novel called Hades' Kiss, and it's about a peculiar private detective living in New Orleans who's got a very unique personality, let's say, which is perfectly in keeping with peculiar characters living in New Orleans on the literary side. The name of Jerry's detective protagonist is Nicholas Vagel. Nicholas Vagel. When you just reduce the first name to a letter, it becomes N-Vagel. Inveigle means to trick somebody into giving up information they would not otherwise give up. So it's a clever play on words. It would be a waste if Jerry couldn't write, but he can write. And that's of course, the key to the success of whatever you're trying to write is if you write well, if you write a compelling story, you can name your character whatever you want, and the reader will follow it. I have another novelist friend who does spy thrillers. His name is Brian Drake. His two characters are one, Sam Raven, and two, Scott Stiletto. Now, both of those names are carefully chosen to indicate action and danger, because Brian knows what he's doing. Which brings us to the greatest action danger character of all time, which would be Ian Fleming's James Bond. But the birth of James Bond's name could not be more mundane. Ian Fleming discovered James Bond was an ornithologist. He was a scholar who wrote about birds, and he said, I chose that name because I could not think of a more blander name, less suited to excite excitement. And of course, because the stories were so well written, the name lives on, and James Bond is one of the most famous literary characters in the world right now. Michael Connelly is a crime writer. He's one of my favorite crime writers, and I've mentioned this before, because his narrative voice is invisible. You're not even aware you're reading. The story is so gripping. He named his detective Hieronymus Bosch. That may have seemed like an affectation when he first started writing, but as I said, Connelly is such a great writer that nobody resents it. Nobody says, oh, that's silly. Nobody would name their character after a famous painter who painted grim scenes. And if you're not familiar with Hieronymus Bosch, look him up. He was a famous 18th century painter who painted scenes of hell, for want of a better term. And some of those scenes have been turned in movie sets because they look like hell. But Hieronymus Bosch, the character, has outlived them all. And he's, in fact, there's a series on TV called Bosch that follows Connelly's books. And one of the reasons the series is so outstanding is because each season is based on one of Connelly's novels, which are beautifully thought out. So there's no dead space, no silliness, no virtue signaling. It's just pure story. And in the book, in the world of Bosch, everyone calls him Harry, because nobody's going to call him Hieronymus, but that's his name. Peter Brandvold, probably the most popular Western writer of the day, has several series out. And one of the series is called Bloody Joe Manion. And Peter's laying it all out right there for you now. You know what that story's about. Most of his Westerns are about vengeance or upholding the law on the frontier. And Bloody Joe Manion delivers action and blood, as you would expect. They're not lurid, they're not grotesque or drenched with blood, but there is a lot of action and people do get hurt. So you know that Bloody Joe Manion delivers what the name promises. Agatha Christie created Hercule Poirot, the French detective, who has gone on to great fame. I have no idea how she hit upon that name, but it resonates. It's another literary character that has far outpaced others on the strength of not just the name, but the strength of Agatha Christie's writing. She's a great writer too. When you're a great writer, your books are going to sell. When the books sell, people become familiar with your characters, which brings us to Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein when she was in her 20s. And I don't know where she got the name Frankenstein, but it's just a stroke of genius because it now stands for monsters. People have been calling the monster Frankenstein since the first film was released, but of course, Frankenstein was the doctor that created the monster. But it's become synonymous with the monster, and there's nothing we can do about it because of the movies, which refer to him as Frankenstein. All of the early movies got it straight. There was a Dr. Frankenstein, and then there was his creation. And if you have not seen the first Frankenstein, directed by James Whale in black and white, you owe it to yourself to see it, because it's an astonishing movie, head and shoulders above anything else of the era. Which brings me to my characters. I like to use found names. I have a biker protagonist. I have a biker series. I'm working on the 11th novel now. The name is Josh Pratt. Where did I get Josh Pratt? I was riding into town one day on my motorcycle, and I passed a roadside memorial to a young man who'd been killed on his bicycle. His name was Josh Pratt, and that's where the name came from. I recently finished a new novel. I don't want to tell you what it's about, but the protagonist's name is Tyler Langley, and the name came from my bathroom drawer.
Freddie's very curious.
Yes, Freddie. And finally, I read the notes on in the CDs I get, and one of them was thanking all the people that made the CD possible, and one of the people they thanked was Evil Finkelstein. Well, I have never heard a more resonant name. So Evil Finkelstein is now a character in Bronze Star 2, which Pat Broderick is busily illustrating, and we hope to offer next year. We are sending out a Mike's newsletter Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, alerting you to sales that are going on in my store at baroncomics.com. The books keep growing there. They're not just graphic novels, but some of my novels too, including Badger and Nexus. And if you want to grab one at a savings, by all means, follow the lead in the newsletter. And if you are not on the newsletter list, just drop me a note. I'm on Twitter at Bloody Red Baron. I'm on Facebook at The Comics and Novels of Mike Baron. I'd be happy to add you to the list. And that's it. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, we're going to do a little survey. Oh, whoopsie. Freddie's deciding to come over to me. Freddie, hi. And there's Bob. Bob is begging for food. Bob, you don't want to be on the video? Do you not want to be on the video?
He wants to be on the video.
Okay, and Freddie's getting in my face, as you can see. And Mac, our old dog Mac. Oh, she's such a cutie. She's such a sweet dog. It only took us 8 years, but she's now a sweet dog. A long time. Anyway, we're back to Mike. And any parting words to your audience?
Pad and pen.
Yes. Okay, thanks. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay tuned for the newsletter Thursday morning.